Island-wide power failure experienced change in weather across the country.
Local government polls in June or July. A statement from the subject minister.
Yoshida Rajapaksa and 4 others further remanded.
Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca sworn in as Minister of Regional Development.
Farmers in Kantale decide to withdraw all legal engagements with the agriculture and irrigation ministries.
Gotabaya Rajapaksa response to media.
A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to this edition of Primetime News. With me, Joel Outspoon, and joined with me tonight is my co-anchor Arundhati Mudanaka. Good evening, Arundhati.
Good evening, Joel. Well, before we move on to our top story, a reminder to our viewers that you can join the conversation on tonight's news bulletin on Twitter by following @Newsfirst_EN and using the hashtags featured on our main stories tonight.
And we start off with our top story this evening. Now, the entire country experienced a power outage for around 4 hours this afternoon.
Ranjit Siambalapitia, the Minister of Power and Renewable Energy, had instructed the relevant officials to submit a report regarding the incident.
A communique issued by the ministry states that the minister called for a special investigation to be carried out.
The Ceylon Electricity Board stated that a power outage was experienced across the island around 2:30 p.m.
Just after 2 this afternoon, there was an electricity outage across the country. We still cannot say what caused this outage. We are aware that this was not caused by the Norachole power plant. There is inclement weather today and we suspect that a lightning strike onto the grid may have caused this outage. We will investigate that. We commence a restoration process. This will take around 2 to 3 hours. The engineers are now working on restoring the power supply.
Power failure and a sudden change in the weather was experienced in several parts of the country. Heavy traffic was also seen in many roads within the Colombo area as the colour lights were not functioning following the power failure.
The power outage also affected parliamentary proceedings. However, the parliament continued with its proceedings. Inclement weather prevailed during the time of the power outage. This was the situation in Colombo. Heavy downpour was experienced in Maradana as well. A branch of a tree had fallen in an area between Thalahen and Malabe. A number of shops and houses were damaged as a result of the fallen tree branch. This was the situation of the coastal belt in Kolpiti and Bambalapitia. This was the situation in the area surrounding the Nugegoda town. Police stated that the traffic light system in Colombo had malfunctioned as a result of the power outage. Heavy traffic was reported on a number of roads as a result. A number of houses were damaged due to strong winds that swept through Dalgoda, Ottunna, Sapugaskanta, Bandarawata and Biyagam areas. A hailstorm was also reported from the Ottunna Bandarawata areas. Newsfirst contacted the director of the Met Department.
What we are experiencing is the northeastern monsoon season. The winds enter Sri Lanka from the eastern area. These winds may arrive as waves. These are termed as magnetic waves. This caused heavy downpours in Sri Lanka. The cloud that caused thunder showers arrives with some of these wind waves. Sometimes the hail inside the cloud may fall on the ground. This situation will change tomorrow. Rains can be experienced.
President Maithripala Sirisena attended the annual convocation of the Sri Lanka Institute of Information Technology in Malabar today.
Graduate certificates were presented to 1,017 students from the Information Technology, Engineering and Business Management faculties.
During my recent state visits to Germany and Austria, I held discussions with the German Chancellor and the Austrian President. I signed several agreements with them to gain the high technological knowledge of those countries to Sri Lanka and to initiate educational exchange programs between the two countries. During the one-year period that I have served as President, I signed agreements and inked pacts with many countries to bring the technological knowledge to the country.
New Zealand Prime Minister John Key toured the city of Kandy today.
The visiting Prime Minister arrived at the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic and was welcomed by the Devadan Nilame Pradeep Nilangadala. The New Zealand Prime Minister obtained blessings from the Sacred Tooth Relic and also visited the museum at the temple. Subsequently, Prime Minister Key visited the Peradeniya Botanical Gardens and also planted an atombo sapling. Thereafter, an agreement was reached between the University of Peradeniya and the Massey University of New Zealand. The Vice-Chancellor of the Peradeniya University, Upul Dissanayake, and the Vice-Chancellor of the Massey University of New Zealand, Ray Gio, signed the agreement.
Through the agreement, we are hoping to implement systems to exchange students between the two countries, to get New Zealand students come to Sri Lanka and engage in training activities, and send our students to New Zealand to gain experiences and also exchange the tutorial staff between the two countries. We are hoping to take our educational courses to the international standards together with the globalization, and to do that, we will have to take initiatives to let our children follow an internationally recognized course. So today, we keep the first step to initiate such a system.
You are happier to be here today rather than you were last time?
We were very pleased to see the resolution, which was really pushing forward the reconciliation that's taking place here.
There's also a huge debate in your country on a new flag.
Change is always difficult, so it's not to say it's impossible, but it's quite a battle to get there.
The Executive Committee meeting of the Asia Pacific Democrat Union of the International Democrat Union was held in Colombo today.
Chaired by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, the Asia Pacific Democrat Union Executive Committee meeting was attended by representatives of 26 countries.
What we had was a collapse of democracy, and that is even more vital. And therefore we have to now restore those institutions. Institutions built up from about 1835. What we realized is what was built over a century and a half can be destroyed within a decade, and you need at least another decade for the wounds to heal. This part of the region is now coming into limelight. Sri Lanka, India, the whole of South Asia, the strategic value of the Indian Ocean, the rising economies of South and Southeast Asia are the ones that will be in the forefront in the coming few decades.
On to a story that made it to the headlines this evening. Minister of Local Government and Provincial Councils, President's Council Faiza Mustafa convened a media briefing today.
We have received 2,000 appeals up to date citing that over 1,000 delimitation divisions must be changed. So while activities in relation to the delimitation process is underway, my target is to hold the elections in June or July. But it is with responsibility that I am saying that the election will take place only after the delimitation process is carried out in a manner that provides justice to everyone. So no one can point fingers at this government. Some have even resorted to going to court about this and have filed a case. I am very happy to say that I have faith in myself, that I have not violated any law. I am a lawyer and a President's Counsel, so it is with responsibility that I am saying that this election has not been delayed for any other reason but for the sole reason that the delimitation process had not been carried out in a proper manner all this while. So I cannot hold elections in such a backdrop.
Speaking further, the minister said that parliamentarians of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party cannot work in violation of the decisions of the party's Central Committee.
Now some persons are trying to figure out how they can be accepted in parliament as a separate group. Well, they cannot be accepted legally. They must come under the leadership of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and the Alliance. MPs of the SLFP in particular cannot take decisions which go beyond the decisions of the party's Central Committee. They can leave their parliamentary posts and leave if they want to. Prasanna Ranatunga is saying that he is against the national anthem, but Vasudevan Anekara and DEW Gunasekara is saying that it is a good thing. So how can a group which does not follow the same policy go on the same journey? Now Namal Rajapaksa is saying that there were certain issues with Basil Rajapaksa. Back when Mahinda Rajapaksa was on the verge of losing, he said that Basil should be held responsible for it. So this is a cauldron. No matter what board they put up calling it the joint opposition, they cannot take it forward.
Right?
Court today ordered the Criminal Investigations Department to arrest those responsible for the death of rugby player Wasim Tajuddin.
The Colombo Additional Magistrate Nishant Pires announced in court today that the death of Wasim Tajuddin appeared to be a murder.
According to the facts that were presented before, court previously determined that the death was a result of a car accident. However, after the body was exhumed and following the information that was provided to court, it was decided that the death was not caused by a car accident and that it was murder. Today, the magistrate ordered to produce before court all those who presented facts to note that the death was caused by a car accident.
The Janata Vimukti Peramuna or the JVP convened a media briefing today.
Ranil Wickramasinghe අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා බජාර් එකේ ඡණ්ඩියා වගේ තමයි දැන් මේවා සම්බන්ධයෙන් කතා කරන්න පටන් අරන් තියෙන්නේ. එතුමා වෙලාවකදී
Prime Minister Ranil Wickramasinghe has begun to talk about certain things like the gangster in the clique. At times he makes a statement on the ECTA agreement saying that they have the power in parliament and that no matter who opposes it, they will go ahead with it. First we want to ask him which agreement did they say that they would sign no matter who opposes it. So what the current government of Prime Minister Ranil Wickramasinghe is gearing up to do is to bring the same agreement as SEPA, which casts aside all the top professionals of the country but with a different manner. Well, if Prime Minister Ranil Wickramasinghe is saying that they will go ahead with it no matter who opposes it, what we have to say is that we will defeat it no matter who is in favor of it. We will defeat it even if it is passed in parliament. If you actually look at it, Mahinda Rajapaksa is a bigger gangster than Ranil. There were much bigger gangsters than Mahinda Rajapaksa. The biggest is Gotabaya Rajapaksa. There were many more gangsters. No one was able to go above the head of Basil Rajapaksa. So if the people of this country were able to topple such rule, Ranil Wickramasinghe is not even close to a major gangster compared to that. So we suggest to the Prime Minister that if he collectively convenes, takes collective decisions after collective discussions and follows a collective procedure according to the Lechavay rolling system, I presume it would be the best for the people of the country and himself.
ජනතාවටත් හොඳයි කියන පණිවිඩය අපි එතුමාට දෙන්න ඕනේ.
Questions were raised on the statement made by the Prime Minister in Parliament recently that he possesses certain files. Well, I'm sure he has a few files with him because the file on the central bank treasury bond scam when the government came into power is also with him. Moreover, the files on the fraud which took place during the importing of vehicles involving the finance minister and a few customs directors are also with him. Not only that, there are a number of files of ministers of the previous government as well as the current government who were summoned to the FCID. So investigations and court proceedings on these matters are yet to be concluded, probably because of these files he possesses. So the people are watching this.
Welcome back. You're with News First. The issues of estate workers were taken up during the adjournment motion debate in Parliament today.
83,962 people do not even have line rooms. So where do they live? What has Thondaman, who is living a worthless and disastrous life, given to the lives of the general citizen? That is all I am asking. You know better than I do about his worthless life. He is leading a meaningless life after taking the vote of the people. What is the Thondaman Foundation? To which foundation can the government fund money? Around 184 are employed there and all 184 of them belong to his party's cadre, which is functioned by. The cadre is paid its wages through that. There is an office at the foundation. This foundation has taken nearly 200 million rupees a year for 9 years. That is 1,800 million rupees in total. A sum of 1,800 million rupees has been spent for the Thondaman Foundation alone over the past 9 years. I would like to know what happened to that 1,800 million rupees. Someone's wife who was brought from India is being paid 350,000 rupees in wages. But for the estate workers, their wage is just 450 rupees. I won't say who this Indian woman is. You know who she is. She gets paid 350,000 rupees in wages. For 30 years he held a ministerial position. But as you said, the true story about the Thondaman Foundation is that is his party office. I know because it comes under my purview. That is the government's money. They had gone to India where the total cost came to 35 million rupees. They had spent 95,000 rupees just for accommodation. So whose money is this? This is actually a matter which should be investigated by the FCID and COPE because it is the government's money. The houses which they have constructed are multi-storied houses. You are well aware of this housing problem and the hardships these estate workers have when living in these lined rooms. So during the tenure of President Mahinda Rajapaksa's government, funds were allocated for Thondaman to construct these houses. Minister, a certain amount of houses were constructed in Labukale and Kotagala. It commenced, but it was not completed. It is clear that we must provide estate workers with their own land. We intend on doing that in the near future. All trade unions are in agreement to this. And it is with happiness that I state that even the plantation industries have expressed their agreement to this.
Still in news from Parliament this evening, UPFA MP Mahindananda Alutkamage made a statement in Parliament today.
A divorce case, which is a personal matter, is filed at the Kaduwela Magistrates Court. As compensation, I am asked to pay a sum of 500 million rupees. The JVP files a case against me at the Bribery Commission stating that I gave a compensation of 500 million rupees. I have with me a copy of the divorce case. She withdraws all allegations levelled against me. Instructions have been given to the CID to arrest 10 parliamentarians from the joint opposition before the 15th of March. Prior to this, a media facade is being created. Now the media showcases that we are rogues. Sirasa showed my name, later Minister Johnson's name, then Minister Velgama's name. An article was published on the Sunday Leader last week. Now today it is on Lanka Deepa. There is no allegation. They are trying to create an opinion in the society. Ministers are creating this media show to arrest parliamentarians by creating false allegations. If it could be proven that I have extorted any sum of money while serving at the Ministry of Sports, just like Minister Bandula said, we will cut our stomach and kill ourselves. Now the Minister Alutgama spoke about me. I have made such a remark. This is based on a case filed in court. In 1980, he earned a monthly salary of 1,500 rupees, and there is no comparison to the assets he had accumulated now. I will not mention the court case. The case was filed to obtain a compensation of 500 million rupees with a monthly payment of 5 million rupees a month. Therefore, based on the declaration of assets on the report, then I pointed out as to how could such an amount be paid as compensation by an individual who earned about 1,500 rupees in 1980. It should either be a miracle or money earned through some other means.
Governor and the Board of Directors of the Central Bank appeared before the Committee on Public Enterprises. Now, according to our parliamentary correspondent, the Central Bank officials appeared before COPE on irregularities at the Central Bank. Our correspondent added that the meeting that took place at the parliamentary complex went on for 3 hours.
On to a story that made it to the headlines this evening. Leader of the Democratic Party, Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, took oaths as the Minister of Regional Development today.
Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca took oaths before President Maithripala Sirisena. He was the pilot of the victorious fight to rescue the country from the 30-year-long civil war. Gardiheva Sarath Chandralal Fonseca, who led the heroic army in burying terrorism where it was born, ended one of the darkest chapters in the nation's history at the Nandikadal Lagoon. Even before the clamour over the war victory had died down, amid the many events that transpired at the time, Sarath Fonseca came to the fore once again as the common candidate for the 2010 presidential election. In 2011, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison and was stripped of all ranks and medals held. In 2015, he was acquitted of all charges by presidential order and was elevated to the 5-star rank of Field Marshal. He is the first Sri Lankan to hold this position. Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, who empowered the unfinished people struggle by forming an alliance with the United National Front and became a nationalist MP. Today is the Minister of Regional Development.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's son Yoshita Rajapaksa and 4 others were further remanded until the 10th of March after they were produced before the Kadwal magistrate today.
Directors of the CSN, Nishantha Ranatunga, Rohan Valivita, Ashan Ravinath Fernando and Kavishan Disanayaka appeared before courts today along with Yoshita Rajapaksa. Former President, former First Lady, family members and several parliamentarians were also present at court today. Producing a report in court, police said that statements from the first, second and third suspects were reported while they were in prison. Police also informed court, as they have not received the reports pertaining to the mobile phones and computers that were directed to the Computer Emergency Readiness Team, measures will be taken to obtain those reports as soon as possible. The police added the Commissioner General of Immigration and Emigration has been informed on the travel ban imposed on the 6th suspect in the matter, Shadia Karunajiva. The police further added that she has not returned to the island as of yet. The 9th suspect in the case, the D.A. Rajapaksa Foundation, appeared in court today. Police requested court to return the suspect back into remand custody, as many bank accounts need to be investigated and suspects being granted bail would hinder the investigations. Attorneys for the defence points out that the comprehensive report pertaining to each individual suspects under the charges made on the Public Property Act. The magistrate later ordered that the 5 suspects be further remanded till the 10th of March. The former president refrained from speaking to the media today as well.
The Financial Crimes Investigation Division, which failed to determine whether this was connected to the Public Property Act while conducting investigations for 9 long months, informs that this involves the Public Property Act the day before the bail hearing. If this matter involved the Public Property Act, then a report from the police superintendent must be produced. Officers from the Financial Crimes Investigations Division cannot produce that report. Police also highlighted the obstruction to the investigations. Our clients have assisted in the investigations. We are surprised over the facts that the police has presented. The bail application will be taken into consideration by the High Court on February 29th. We are awaiting the verdict of the courts on that day. This is what is called good governance. There is nothing new to say about that. The police FCID has acted in a manner that bail is rejected, aimed at seeking revenge. Bail is rejected, highlighting the Public Property Act. We have not committed any wrong. We have faith in the law and the judicial system.
You're watching the news at 9, still in local news this evening. Speaking at an event held in Colombo yesterday, Minister of Rehabilitation, Resettlement and Prison Reform D.M. Swaminathan commented on the rehabilitation process in the northern province.
As a minister in charge of the northern area, I know the amount of suffering the people have suffered for the last 30 years. 30 years of war. They lost everything. They lost their houses, they lost their children, they lost their limbs, they lost their husbands, they lost their entire family. And that is why we are concentrating in the north. And that is why I have been also selected to be a minister in charge of the northern province and to see whether we can give redress and resettlement and rehabilitation to the Tamil community in the northern province. It's a long-drawn journey, but that long-drawn journey has to be done in a quick manner.
The minister made this statement at the ACCES Sustainability Reporting Awards 2016, which recognizes organizations which report and disclose environmental, social or full sustainability within the country.
In today's business world, sustainability related reporting is important when it comes to corporate social responsibility and for a long-term investment decision. Our democracy has been acclaimed throughout the world. Many world leaders have acclaimed our progressiveness as far as our sustainability in democratic system is concerned. This has been acknowledged throughout the world. The reason is that they've accepted this small country like Sri Lanka coming back to its normalcy and opening its arms to the world concerned.
Well, today is day 2 of Sri Lanka's largest people-oriented campaign, the News First Gum at the Door-to-Door initiative.
Well, the campaign was launched to identify the hardships faced by individuals and villagers in the most rural areas of the nation and highlight those issues.
The program is organized by News First, is supported by the University of Peradeniya.
The Newsfirst Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign took place in the Jaffna district in the northern province, the Putlam district in the northwestern province and the Munragali district in the Over province. The campaign, which is carried out with the assistance of the University of Peradeniya, was strongly supported by the Newsfirst U reporters based in those respective areas. Today, the Newsfirst team set off to meet the locals in the Delft Island. I cannot do anything. I only receive 3,000 rupees per month. When I make inquiries, they ask if this is not enough for me. Protected by a wall of corals, the area of the Delft Island is around 44 square kilometers. The main source of income for the people living in this island is the fishing industry. Others in the island depend on the palmyra industry.
There is no way to reach the hospital. If anyone falls ill, we are severely inconvenienced. There is no permanent doctor here.
The Newsfirst team also visited Nagadeepa, which attracts many locals and international visitors.
We've been walking in this manner for hours and hours in the island of Nainathi. We've been able to talk with the people, we've been able to find out their issues, and here as well, as we saw yesterday, the water issue is highly prevalent. These guys also need a drinking water scheme because they do not have a lot of wells that can provide clean drinking water.
The team obtained blessings from the Nagadeepa Rajamahaviharaya and the Amman Kovil and thereafter toured the area to inquire into the drinking water issue.
What is the main issue for the people living here? This place is only 2 to 3 wells. Everyone uses these wells.
The single largest public service initiative in Sri Lanka, the Newsfirst Gum at the Door-to-Door campaign, covering the most rural parts of Sri Lanka, giving a voice to the voiceless. The Newsfirst Gum at the Door-to-Door initiative, an unprecedented island.
Well, on that note, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. Thank you very much for stopping by. I am Joel Outscreen.
And I'm Arundhati Mudannaik. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.
Good night.